They called it the last quiet house on Maple Street. Tucked behind overgrown hedges and an aging maple whose limbs scraped the roof, the house looked ordinary from the curb, paint peeling, mailbox bent, a single light at the porch that flickered on stormy nights. Inside lived Elenore Price, a retired schoolteacher with a tidy routine and a reputation for kindness. Neighbors remembered her as the woman who fed stray cats, kept a perfect garden, and mailed birthday cards to former students. It was the kind of life that made the news of her death feel impossible. The night Elenore was found, a thunderstorm had rolled through town. A concerned neighbor noticed the front door slightly ajar and the porch light still on. When the police entered, they found the living room in disarray, drawers opened, items scattered, and a lamp knocked to the floor. Elenore was discovered in her bedroom. She had been murdered. The scene was orderly enough for investigators to rule out a random break-in gone wrong, but the absence of forced entry and the careful way the house had been searched made them suspect someone she had let in willingly. Detective Marcus Hale led the case. He had the steady patience of someone who had seen grief before and the quiet determination to follow small leads where others might not. He began by interviewing neighbors, friends, and anyone who had seen Elenore in the weeks before her death. A pattern emerged. Elenore had been receiving visits from a younger man, polite but insistent, who neighbors remembered as wearing a worn coat and carrying a canvas bag. He had asked questions about Eleanor's late husband, about the value of items in the home, about whether she had any close relatives. Eleanor's answers, the neighbors said, were always patient and guarded. Forensic work yielded fingerprints and a partial shoe print on the porch, but neither matched anything in the national databases. The breakthrough came from an unlikely place, Eleanor's mail. Detective Hale found recent correspondence, letters and bills, that hinted at someone pressuring her for money. One envelope, addressed in a hurried hand, contained a receipt for a pawned watch and a scribbled note asking to meet. Tracking the pawnshop's records led Hale to a name, James Carter, whose history of petty thefts and a recent parole made him a person of interest. When officers found Carter, he was living 3 towns over in a room with little more than a suitcase and a packet of unpaid bills. He denied involvement at first, but the pattern of his movements and a matching partial print on a discarded glove linked him to the night Elenore died. Under questioning, Carter's defenses cracked. He admitted to visiting Elenore, asking for help and money, and to an argument that escalated beyond what he intended. He had left in panic and returned later to take what he could. He claimed the violence was not premeditated, that it was a panicked, terrible mistake, words that did little to erase the loss. The trial that followed was not quick justice. It was a slow dismantling of excuses and a careful laying out of evidence. Witnesses recounted small details that built a picture of coercion and desperation. The jury found James Carter guilty. He was sentenced to a term that acknowledged both the crime and the broken choices that led to it. In the months after the verdict, the neighbors on Maple Street organized a small memorial for Elenore. They planted bulbs in her garden and left notes in the mailbox, simple acts of remembrance that felt both necessary and insufficient. Detective Hale kept the case file on his desk for a while, not out of obsession but as a quiet promise that he would remember the life behind the statistic.